the person that looks most likely like he would listen to Joe Rogan, we elected me to do this segment.
Sure.
So it's no secret that Joe Rogan has been spreading misinformation this entire pandemic. He's been like against face masks, against vaccinated children, telling to help people if you're healthy, you don't need the vaccine. You can just go and live your life. It's only for the sick people. Completely neglecting the fact that healthy people that get COVID can still spread it to people that are not so healthy. A little factor he tends to dismiss. And then recently he had Robert Malone, the so-called inventor of the mRNA vaccine, on his podcast. And despite the fact that this guy has not had anything to do with the vaccine for like over 30 years. Mm-hmm. So you really can't say that he's up to date on everything. He's had his hand on everything. Yes, he had a little bit of something, but it's like 30 years, a lot can happen. And he had him on his podcast spreading misinformation. Finally, Neil Young is like, screw this. I'm getting my music off of Spotify if they're going to keep platforming this guy. And there's been a couple people that have followed suit with him.
And more coming too, I'll guarantee you.
Oh yeah, most definitely. So like just want to like let everybody know that this particular article that we're coming from was actually in the Rolling Stone magazine that was dated on January the 12th by E.J. Dixon, and it's called "A Menace to Public Health: Doctors Demand Spotify to Put an End to COVID Lies on Joe Rogan Experience." So basically what happened was, it's like, as Josh talked about, Joe Rogan has been really off the chain lately with a lot of his misinformation that he has been, utilizing and showing on his show. And then he brought in Dr. Malone, and also Dr. Peter McCullough, who's a cardiologist who's also been, very anti-vaccine, kind of, and also on the misinformation train. And you all know that, like, Joe Rogan recently made a deal with Spotify for over $100 million in order for him to bring his show and have him be basically the anchor, so that Spotify can really start to tout themselves as a platform for a podcast. Now, and because of course, like he's like huge, like he has like the number one podcast like ever in life.
11 million listeners on average.
Yeah, like over 11 million listeners a day, actually tune into his show. And but like the problem is like, with his particular rhetoric, or even bringing people on who have very problematic messages concerning COVID and vaccines and the like, that you have more like musicians and other content creators that are actually pulling their content off of Spotify, and it's causing a bit of a kerfuffle over there, because Spotify, I believe, is like slated to lose about $2 billion by the time that this show airs. They would have lost over $2 billion from the content that has been.
It's because he doesn't understand the power that he yields with this platform. He, on his apology that he made a day or so ago, whenever the hell that was, he just touted it out as just him having conversation. He said that he'll have people that are on the side of the vaccines on, then he'll have people on like Malone on it to do anti-vax stuff. He's like, maybe I made a mistake of not having somebody pro-vaccine on right after, completely missing the point that when you platform somebody like that, it doesn't matter if you have them on right after. There are certain viewpoints that are just way too dangerous to platform. And like, we've had 20 years, we've had 3 Spider-Man that have explained with great power comes great responsibility, and he can't get that into his head on his podcast. You have that many listeners, there's going to be some people, you're definitely going to get the anti-vaxxers already set in stone. They're going to get the people that listen to science set in stone, but there is that middle ground of people that don't understand, and they don't know how to get good information. So they're going to listen to him like, oh, this guy's a doctor. He invented the vaccine. Mm-hmm. So, of course, we got to listen to this guy. It's dangerous. And if he doesn't understand the power that he yields, he should be talking to comics. He should be talking to musicians. He should be talking about things that are beyond his scope of understanding. Because even having the conversation is dangerous.
Word. Neil, go ahead and jump in.
I just wanted to say, I mean, if he's going to have pro-vaccine people on after having the anti-vaccine people, they're already swayed by the arguments that came from the anti-vaxxer, especially if they were already predispositioned to be an anti-vaxxer. I have people like that in my life, for crying out loud.
Right.
And now you've got here in Canada, you've got that the whole truck convoy thing going across with the, for the anti-vaxxing and anti-masking sort of stuff. Our freedom is being infringed upon, which is utterly ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, when you host people like that, you're already convincing folks with the so-called expert, right? But I mean, like you said earlier, the guy hasn't been involved in mRNA style vaccinations for over 30 years, or just about 30 years. So he doesn't know the progression of those specific vaccines. So I don't even know why you would consider him to be an expert at all.
And keep in mind too, when he was working on mRNA technology to develop, to utilize in like a delivery system, because like
he claimed to invent it at one time.
Yeah, he claimed to invent it, but what ended up but what really happened is that he and another scientist, actually a team of scientists from the institutes that he worked at, actually conceptualized and did experiments using the lipid system to deliver mRNA technology into cells. I remember having a conversation with my mom because she was a lab tech for years. She started as a technician and then became a technologist. And she was telling me how she has like a bunch of books from like the 60s to 70s to 80s when she was actually, studying to be a lab tech that talked about mRNA technology.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that at that particular time, they didn't have like they haven't conceptualized a delivery system yet in order for it to actually be able to rewrite, code basically in
or
cell.
be effective. Well,
exactly.
They don't
and
rewrite
so
code. They just you give instructions on
right.
how the cells can handle.
Okay. Code disease. Probably was a bad bad term, but you get what I'm saying. Like, in order for it to be able to, go into a cell so that it can actually give instructions to a cell to what to do when it encounters a particular virus. So like the foundations of mRNA technology were there way before Malone, and I forgot the other person that was doing the work with him, but they were and I remember like looking at another story about it when they were talking about this particular campaign that Dr. Malone has been on for misinformation, and one of his colleagues actually said that even when he worked with him, he seemed a bit unhinged. He wasn't, and I don't want to like misrepresent anybody. This is just like, I'm just saying, like, this is what one person's perception of him when he was working with him.
I mean, he's not a psychologist, he's a different kind of doctor, but you can like understand where he's coming from on that. And but regardless of any kind of ego and all that kind of stuff, you can still be a good scientist and be a little bit eccentric, but he's not doing good science. He's promoting himself. And now we've had like 270 doctors, physicians, scientists, educators wanting to get rid of, not even necessarily get rid of Joe Rogan deplatform. They want those episodes gone, and they want more than what Spotify is doing as like a placate to everybody, where they're gonna put a little disclaimer in front of the episodes that there could be dangerous content here. I frequent some of the conspiracy theory subreddits to see what they're all going on about. It was my first exposure to Malone, and they're not going to care about that. They're going to go, oh, that's just what the guys say to get themselves out of trouble. They can put a disclaimer there, but the real information is after this disclaimer. So putting that isn't going to stop anything. It's very much just like Spotify trying to get him out of trouble. Joe Rogan's apology seemed to miss the point in that he kept on saying, like, eventually the science is going to back him up, because these things were all said to be wrong at one point, and then the science caught up to his baseless theories, which he was only giving like half truths on everything. So like,
if you about his Instagram post,
where he was going off about how all these things were said to be false, and then they caught up to it. He's ignoring like variants and all the science, and everything that's evolved in this pandemic. It's very dishonest, or at the very least.
Neil, what were you going to say?
I'm just kind of I was shocked to find out that one of the people I really admire, Dwayne Johnson, kind of spoke up in defense of him as well. Which kind of like, Rock, no.
Yeah.
Can you smell what the Rock is not cooking right now?
Joe, let me tell you. When I was like, like perusing for additional information concerning, like, Joe Rogan's "I'm sorry 2022" post, which wasn't an apology. I didn't perceive it as an apology at all. He was just saying, well, maybe I could have done something different, but
maybe it was clarification on his thought process.
Sure, let's go with that.
I think the other doctor I'm trying to remember, was that the Dr. McCullough?
No, Dr. McCullough was the other person that has been touting misinformation. That's Dr. Peter McCullough. He's a cardiologist. No, there was a specific doctor that his name escapes me for right now. I believe that the link of the story that I'm talking about is in the show notes, people. So make sure that you take a look at that. But it was another doctor that worked specifically with Malone that helped conceptualize mRNA delivery system technology with the lipid. But going back to The Rock, when he was saying that, bravo, brother, you know how he talked. Bravo, brother, I applaud you for saying. Wait, hold on, I actually wrote it down. Exactly what he said. He said stuff, and I'm going to go there. Oh yeah, he was saying, great stuff here, brother. Perfectly articulated. Look forward to coming on one day and breaking out to the tequila with you. Now, first off, I want to say that y'all don't need to be breaking out no tequila, because until you get your facts straight, I need you to have a clear head. Number one, okay? And also too, I was even thinking, and I mean, this may be like a low shot, but whatever. You know that The Rock has been is going to be in the new Call of Duty movie.
I didn't know there was one.
Yeah, there's going to be a Call of Duty movie, and so like The Rock, you got to have a platform like with 11 million followers to listen to, so that you can market your movie. So yeah, that may be a cheap shot, but I'm not below cheap shots here on the nonprofits, as we all know. But I, but I also felt that was an issue. Specifically with any of these people that have a platform, have a voice, are known, even if they're like celebrities, or even if like science is not necessarily their wheelhouse. We have pretty much good information concerning the pandemic, the efficacy of vaccines, and what to do to protect yourself. And when you are basically acting as an apologist for somebody who has been utilizing their extremely large platform to tout misinformation, that is extremely problematic, and it is dangerous.
What do you think about these musicians using their platform to try and fight against us? We mentioned Neil Young. There was Joni Mitchell. I saw Crosby, Stills, and Nash were one of them. But I'm wondering if there's going to be any kind of impact with that kind of thing happening, because the podcast, his is more than weekly. He podcasts multiple times a week, so that's millions of downloads almost every single day, versus you can be in the mood for Neil Young for a week, and then you won't touch it for a while.
Right.
It's like, and I don't know if he's even a part of the generation that's listening to Spotify as much. When we have, like, most of the people I know that would listen to Neil Young, they listen to him on records. So it's not like it's a big part of Spotify's audience doing that. I did see that they definitely lost a lot of money initially, and there was like this, I think it said like 30% drop in their stocks. But as soon as Joe Rogan did his apology, it went up another 10%. So it's like people are fickle on this issue, and I'd like to see bigger celebrities doing something on this platform, because until that happens, I don't see Joe Rogan getting deplatformed or anything substantial happening to him.
Won't be.
No, I mean, but like,
he basically got a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, I think so.
Good news, though.
Go ahead.
Real quick.
Yeah.
I heard a rumor that Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young might do a reunion.
I mean, that might be a good thing for people your generation, I guess.
My generation. Oh,
Oh,
Uh,
the shade
I don't
of
know.
it
I
all.
find their music boring, but that's fine. Everybody can like whatever they want to like.
to each their own, I guess.
But
No comment on that. But but like, but I'm curious, like, just like what you were saying, Josh. Like, Neil, I want you to respond to that. Like, what do you think? With more musicians actually leaving, Spotify and taking their content off. Like, do you think that that's going to have like a larger impact on, you know, um, on Spotify itself, being this large
Well,
conglomerate, and then losing money because of Joe Rogan?
well, they've already lost a little bit of money for sure, and I know that there are more and more artists that are pulling their music from there.
Hmm.
I know, like I mentioned before we went live, that though they're not famous or anything, but a friend of mine's band has pulled their music because they totally disagree with what's happened there as well. I don't know if there's going to be enough people pulling their content from Spotify to make a difference, to be
Mm,
honest.
I wonder if it's even possible with the way record labels are, because there may be musicians that are completely
Yeah,
against
that's
it,
right.
but their recording contract would prohibit them from taking it away from
That's
Spotify.
right.
Like
right.
I know musicians, like one of my favorite bands is Judas Priest. They didn't have the rights to some of their older stuff for the longest time, and there's a record label really releasing stuff that they're constantly saying don't buy this stuff, but they can't stop that record label because they have the rights to those albums. So
Yep.
it's
Yeah.
all there's always something out of the band's control, and you can't really expect a record label who's there to make money to do the smart thing, because I think they're the only ones that are making money off of Spotify are the big record labels. Like I'm friends with some people in like smaller metal bands. They're like, Spotify's basically just to help us promote the music. We make jack shit off of the streams. Even if they're getting like hundreds of thousands of streams, they might get like barely a paycheck. And then when you have a band that you got to split the money through between,
Right.
it's nothing.
Right. Like, I know that like Neil is a musician, and
Yep.
also I've done recordings as well. And so, like, some of the music that I've done in the past is on Spotify too, but because they were released through a label, unless the label pulls it, I have
Yeah,
no
you have no
control over
control.
that,
Yeah. Yeah.
and if, and as far as like a lot of musicians, even before this whole mismatch has happened, would complain about the possibility of profit or non-profit, no pun intended, coming from streaming
That was
sites.
intended.
Yeah, it was intended, but but basically not necessarily making money off of streaming sites in the first place. So as you mentioned, Josh, like, streaming sites like Spotify and the like are mostly places for people to promote their music, and see if they can get more people to know who they are, so that they can possibly make money off of like album sales and also performances, to be honest. But I am just like, really, I don't know. I'm really just like disappointed, and even like the to me, the laissez-faire attitude that like Spotify has kind of taken, or at least that it seems like they've taken, because their CEO was saying, "Hey, 270 um, educators in science and medical industry people, and things of that nature. We heard you, so we're going to put this, hey, warning label on it, and if it seems like the content is really problematic, it can be taken off, but there's never like a actual actionable take, as far as like, yes, it will be taken off. I believe that one of the things that the CEO stated in the blog that they actually run is that they publish their rules so that they can have more transparency when it comes to problematic content. But hey, Wolfer. But the issue is that even if you, even like I remember, I'm going to date myself here, when you first saw parental advisory labels on records and CDs and tapes,
Mhm.
my generation, that, that was not a deterrent for people to stop buying that music. It
Made them
was
want it
more of
more.
a, to me, it was more of an edge, like a marketing leg, like, ooh, what's a parental advisory on it? I'm going to get it. Maybe I get two. You know what I'm saying? So, like you mentioned before, this particular labels is, I don't necessarily think it's going to do much to, persuade people not to consume this content. I don't know. But we're going to be moving on pretty soon. But I just want to go ahead and just get like some final thoughts. I'm going to start with you, Neil, and then you, Josh.
Oh, I'm with you there. I don't think that a disclaimer of any kind is going to change anybody's mind. It's up to the original host, Joe, to go back on and say something like, "Don't take my word for all this. Do some actual research yourself on legitimate scientific sites."
The thing is, Joe Rogan does say that he doesn't know anything and he's just an idiot. That's his words. I'm not calling him that personally, but and he is just
I
an
will.
idiot. Nobody should listen to him. So he says that stuff, and then that's how he kind of gets around the guidelines. Is he acts like he's not promoting this stuff. He's just promoting conversation. It's one of the
Mm-hmm.
reasons why he skates by on all these things. Is he's able to do it in the terms of just having a conversation, which we've all had met those people in life who ask the insincere question when they're really just trying to peddle their insincere, dishonest point of view.
Mhm.
Word, word. And I just want to conclude with one of the last things that Joe Rogan said on his IG post when he, did his supposed apology. Quote, and even thank you to the haters, because it's good to have some haters. It makes you reassess what you're doing and put things into perspective. I think that's good too. And I just want to say that I personally live for the day that Joe can understand that getting pushback for hosting well-known misinformation spreaders on your platform that broadcast to over 11 million people daily is not hating. It's called your media personality, and you should be responsible for the content that you actually have on your
Mhm.
platform and what people say.
100%.